Well, for more on this now, we're joined by Shrupa Gupta, who's Professor of Political Science and International Affairs at the University of Mary Washington. Shrupa, many thanks for coming in. Nobody likes tax reform. I can't imagine anybody says, wow, what a fantastic idea this is. You saw those pictures there. Those traders are pretty steamed up. And yet the government is saying that this will lead to better economic growth, but they don't appear to be buying that. Why are people so angry about this, do you think?
Well, I think part of the problem is that the tax reform was proposed initially to be a single tax structure, whereas during the implementation process, negotiations led to a multiple tax structure. So there are 5 basic tax rates and several exceptions and exemptions. That complicates the whole tax structure, even though it's supposed to simplify it.
It would be curious for people. I'm from the UK, and there is a sales tax. Everybody knows it's one rate. Here you've got, as you say, 4 or 5, lots of exemptions and so on. It took something like 14 years as well to negotiate this, so it's been a long time. And yet, I note that the government says that some goods will actually be cheaper, I think, than they were originally under whatever sort of nominal tax there was. So has the government just not really explained this properly to people?
The government could have done a better job of explaining. It's been, as you pointed out, a reform process that has gone on for many, many years, over a decade. But the last bit, the implementation of the tax actual reforms, that took place within the last 8 months. And so people feel that they're being rushed into it. And consumers are a little unsure what to expect in the stores, whether they're going to actually see the benefits of the tax reductions that you talk of, or whether they're just going to be at the mercy of the store owners.
One colleague from India who I was talking to just before we came on air said that really this is a sort of town versus country issue, that many people in India in the metropolitan areas like Delhi, Bangalore and so on, they won't really mind this because they're used to this kind of thing, but it's these millions of small independent traders in rural areas who perhaps don't even use the internet, don't have perhaps modern accounting methods. They're the ones who are going to struggle.
Absolutely. Actually, that has been the biggest challenge. They don't have the manpower, they don't have the skills. Many are not computer literate, and they don't have the infrastructure. So the government has set up, has promised to set up these compliance centers, and they would have to come and stand in line.
Right, so more queuing. Okay, so not only we've got complicated taxes, now they're saying you've got to queue as well. It doesn't.
Or you have to pay somebody.
Right.
And buy computers, and that increases the
And that's another outlay for independent traders. We heard there in the report, we're seeing those images of those protests, many of them, I imagine, traders who stand to be affected by this new sales tax. There's talk there from the government about unifying India. And for people who haven't been to India, it's an enormous country. People in places like Goa have very, very little to do with people in places like Bihar in the north and so on. Is there a sort of political dimension to this about trying to unify India through this taxation, and people are reacting badly to it?
A unified market, I think everyone agrees, is going to be to India's benefit, to all states, to all businesses, and which is why this tax proposal actually had across the party support initially. Although politically people have opportunistically opposed it at different points, but it has had broad support. But the way it has been implemented is something that has not gone down very well with the people.
And of course, there was that big furore with the banknotes being withdrawn. This has all happened in a fairly short space of time.
Yes.
What's your view of this? Will, in 10 years, people have forgotten about these problems and say, well, that was a painful transition, but now everything's fine? Where do you see things going?
Well, the next year, couple of years are going to be very crucial. If the implementation of this, the rollout goes on smoothly, people actually expect that this will give a shot in the arm to the reform process in India, which is actually very badly needed. So it has potential upsides, but it really would depend on whether the government handles it well from now point on.
And hopefully it will bring that economic growth that they seem to forecast as well.
Right.
We'll have to leave it there. Shruba Gupta, many thanks indeed.